Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Thursday, April 23rd, 2026 at 9:10 in the morning. So we are here to look at a new draft of F313. Received some language last night from AOE that staff has incorporated. And then there's another outstanding question from AOE that we need to decide on. So let Beth walk us through the new language. It's not really substantive, but it is new.
Morning, Betsy James, Office of Legislative Counsel. In an effort to avoid. Let's see, I think I can't do this. Let's see. Bear with me, I'm trying to make this easier for us. Oh, good, okay.
Get that.
So, but this is dangerous because I'm sharing my whole screen. So. Fingers crossed, there's no pop-up.
Where are you going?
Okay, so on the left is draft 4.1, which is the draft we walked through yesterday afternoon. And then on the right is draft 5.1, which is the new draft today. And I'm just sharing them side by side so that you can easily see the difference in language for what AMB proposed. So I'm just going to scroll on the new draft 5.1. No changes to section 1 in findings. No changes to section 2 in the intent language. Section 3, this used to say rulemaking, but now we're asking AOE to issue guidance. And so I've just updated the section heading. I just missed it in draft 4.1. But otherwise, no substantive changes to section 3, which is the guidance to the field around this list of topics prior to getting those rule updates. Section 4 is the amendment to the rules section that now requires the state board to review the rules every 5 years and update as necessary. And then section 5 is where we see some substantive some changes. So this is the big report back from you all from AOE. So licensing, intervention pathway, and flexible pathways. And so the change here is to the flexible pathways report back, so subdivision 3. So I'm going to get us there on the draft 4.1. So the only change here, and this is the language that the agency recommended, is to subdivision C under 3. And you can see, so we'll walk through the language in the draft. So recommendations for a model career navigation policy that is integrated within comprehensive system improvement efforts to strengthen pre-K through grade 12 academic proficiency. And that establishes a framework for school districts to embed grade level competencies related to career exploration directly into core academic instruction, ensuring that career-aligned learning supports the attainment of rigorous student performance standards, ensures that students engage in meaningful career education, exploration, and planning activities that reinforce academic growth in the real-world application of classroom learning, and utilizes a process by which each student develops, updates a personalized learning plan in accordance with current law, serving as a primary tool for tracking both academic proficiency and evolving career interests. You can see that it looks like big changes. It's essentially adding clarity and maybe more detail to the same concepts that existed in draft 4.1. So recommendations for model career navigation policy, recommendations for model career navigation policy with further explanation. How competencies are fitting in, they've provided some clarity on that. Exploration and planning activities, keeping that, but adding some clarity. Process by which student learning, PLPs are updated, again, focusing on PLPs and providing additional clarity. So those are the differences between the two. And then the only other changes to draft 5.1, and I'm actually going to stop sharing my entire screen. That was making me nervous. And we're just gonna go to this one. So, yes, change to section 6, which is the comprehensive high schools redefined intent. Yesterday's language had reference to the school construction advisory group making recommendations per act or per H 955, and I've just removed that reference altogether and left it really broad. So any recommendations issued to you regarding how to achieve regional high schools, how to achieve more comprehensive high schools, or how to embed CTE within secondary schools shall consider, yesterday we had shall use the definition, so shall consider the definition of comprehensive high school, the General Assembly intends to move toward pursuant to subsection A. So that's meant to clarify that we're talking about lines 14 through 17. And we're doing that, I'm using that language, it is the intent of the General Assembly to move toward. We're mirroring that language here, intends to move toward. And then adding at your direction from yesterday, or any other model that creates high schools that share operational costs, expand opportunities, and improve educational equity across a broad geographical area, guides such recommendations. No changes to section 7 regarding the acceptance of credits and proficiencies. Section 8 is your legislative working group, and I did make a change here because as I was working on it yesterday and reviewing our discussion from yesterday, I realized that the adult diploma access to CTE piece, while we removed statutory changes, we hadn't added recommendations for that situation anywhere. So I put it back into a charge of the working group to recommend recommendations for ensuring adult diploma program participants have access to the educational programs that best serve their needs, including career technical education, while also complying with federal and state requirements for adult education, as well as recommendations for how access to such educational programs shall be funded. So that leaves it broad. It calls out CTE specifically. But also, if there are any other programs that we uncover through this work, the adult diploma program participants may want or need access to, it sweeps that in.
Jonathan?
That's a question about that. When we say, like a phrase like, while also complying with federal and state requirements for education, is that? Can a state, can a line like that ensure that that's the case? Are there ever moments when those two things are incommensurate? And I'm just wanting to hear, I'd love to understand more about.
So this is just direction to a working group, right? So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, so who knows what they're gonna report back on? But oh, sorry.
No, I think, please continue. I think I get exactly.
Okay. Also complying with federal and state requirements is putting, in my opinion, putting the onus on them that whatever recommendations they bring you, they should have done the legwork to ensure that they are not bringing you something that does not comply with federal or state requirements for adult education.
As exists as during the working.
Correct. Yep.
I appreciate the.
And I think the recommendation could come back is that can ensure that it just doesn't work.
And I think one of my takeaways from yesterday and listening to your testimony, assuming that I would be staffing this committee or working group, you know, one of the questions I have is, what are the federal prohibitions? Is it use of funds? To me, that's different than a human being is not allowed to participate in something,
Right.
which would then disqualify them from participation in something else, right? If it's just funds, that's a much easier policy choice for you to have to make than trying to fit in with eligibility compliance, right? To me, as someone who doesn't work in this area of the law, that's an open question that I imagine I would be working with the working group on figuring out. And then we did make a change here yesterday. It said something to the effect of using state-funded transportation to ensure that students will not be placed on a wait list due to lack of capacity when there's a viable alternative. And so we've just gotten rid of the funding reference and said that one of the ways we're going to ensure that they have access to CTE is through the provision of coordinated transportation. And what coordinated means will be up to the working group to figure out.
Okay.
Then that's it. Those are all the changes from yesterday.
So for the committee, one decision that we need to make is AOE is asking to expand the membership of the legislative working group to include them in with the legislators and not as consultant. And
active too.
no, no, they're asking, so it says while the existing draft directs the working group to make recommendations, consultations with AOE, BACTED, giving stakeholders a seat, so I think they're asking for AOE, not BACTED. Giving stakeholders a seat at the table will provide a critical perspective to crafting recommendations that are responsive to the field. They also are recommending Department of Labor. They've recommended one CTE director, one superintendent. So they are asking us just to expand the working group.
Yes, for one CTE director.
Instead of BACTED, well, BACTED would be represented by the president with CTE director. Superintendents, Chelsea is not superintendent. Was she a superintendent at one time?
I don't think so.
So they're, instead of their association, and they would ask for that. So, and then for discussion, I guess, Beth, what would that do if we expand that working group?
I have many thoughts. I'm not sure how many of them are staying in my lane. I would suggest that you all make a policy choice. And then if I have concerns related to the mechanics of staffing, I can address those with my, within my office, and this bill is going other places.
Right. I'm just wondering, does that set up a situation where someone that is on a working group, then you become their client?
No, there's no
Or they
way
become your
to,
client?
there's no way to expand who is my client and who isn't my client. It's more. This working group is tasked with a huge lift, right? And so sometimes when we have study committees or working groups, one of the ways I've seen them tackle huge lifts is subcommittees, right? And so if I was having to work with a subgroup that wasn't a majority of my clients, or that the person who was kind of leading the drive on that was not my client, it could get a little interesting, if you will. My understanding is groups with mixed membership like this have existed for far longer than I have been in this job. And I think these challenges have also existed. So I am here to serve you. And so whatever policy choices you make, my office will make work. And I really don't want to be driving your decision here.
Yeah, we just want to know the
Appreciate it.
pitfalls if they are.
I'll start with something. You know, my concern is kind of the separation of powers here. I mean, there's three branches of government. You have AOE as the administrative branch, we're the legislative branch. What's the fallout when you have someone from the administrative branch and the legislative branch coming together and making policy decisions? Is that overstepping the powers of the administrative branch? Because now they all of a sudden have a say in what policies we come up with. I mean, that's more where I'm thinking. Because the fact of the matter is, if they all make a decision and the legislators that are on that group are outvoted,
Or you
they
can,
now
make-
have to answer to their
we
constituents.
can make them ex officio too, so that they have,
Okay.
which, what's the difference of putting them on there than having
You're
them
staffing it.
as consultant?
Yeah, I think that would solve, you know, any sort of separation of powers issue. But I still think, I think Tony's raising I think he's raising a decent point, which is, you know, we've been through the whole, actually two session, you know, session and a half. And we've been struggling with this governance issue. And we haven't, for a lot of reasons, we haven't been able to come to develop that. I think it's ultimately on the legislators to come up, you know, start putting some meat on the bones and making a recommendation. And I'm not, and it's a question of how useful I think AOE is going to be in that. I can see on the one hand, you know, if they're invested ex officio or whatever, they'd be more likely to the work group, and that would be positive. Beyond that, though, I'm not sure how useful it would be. And where am I going? I guess I'd prefer to, I think it's a legislative working group. I think there's some value in that, having a legislative working group to try to move forward from, you know, or discussions, controversial discussions. So that's where I didn't say that.
One of the, I think, wouldn't it be interesting if all 8 of those members didn't come back in January? And there's, I don't know if that, we should think too much about that, but I know that we rely on testimony of individuals. And I do like the idea of having people in a, included if, not in a maybe decision-making capacity, but needing to be a part of things. I think that we can learn a lot about what we're tinkering with through testimony. I do like the idea of us, the legislature, producing something that then the executive branch administration reacts to. This is a natural sort of extension of our legislative work. Having said that, I wasn't sure, could I get some clarification with the recommendation that we received, suggestion, would the agency be selecting the CTE director or just who picks the CTE director? That would be,
That's a policy choice for you all.
okay, but did I hear that their suggestion was a CTE director? Is that a superintendent? I'm sorry.
One CTE director, one superintendent.
In place of back this?
Instead, in place of Baghdad, which
Yeah, I mean, okay, either way, I'm not opposed to people that are directing CTE sectors or superintendents of saying being a part of that working group. If I don't see that being, I don't see the challenge there so much. That's something that we would appreciate, I would appreciate, but I thought it was interesting to see that it was just elected officials. I did think that, I feel like there's a lot of groups that have people that are representing other elements. And I hadn't thought of that, perhaps task forces, and I hadn't necessarily thought of that as muddying the waters the way we described it. ex officio designation, I think sounds appealing to me.
I guess I have a question. When we name people on working groups, it's for two reasons, right? One of them is to make sure that there's a stipend associated with them, right? Getting paid to do the work if they aren't already in a full-time job, and the other is to make sure they show up. Is that fair?
I think there could be many reasons why you
Okay.
would name someone, and those are two reasons. But I can, in the universe of possibilities, think of many more.
Okay,
Want to be sure that,
you're the right people in the mix.
or the people that you've named are bringing in the right people that you want to be heard from. So by just saying consulting, the 8 legislators may not want to consult with AOE or may not want to consult with that pattern. I'm sure that's not going to be the issue, but I think that could be one of the reasons too.
I think that knowing that this is a group of people who are going to be writing legislation, the incentive for partners to be there and show up is there. And we've seen that. We've seen them showing up for all of these meetings and wanting to be part of it and engaging with us. And so that for me, yeah,
I think there's plenty of incentive for everyone that we've named in there to be at the table, whether it's in a consulting realm or if it's appointed. I guess my druthers are to leave this as a wholly legislative working group that works with everyone on the outside to come up with meaningful way to create a governance system. I know Baghdad will be on. I know that AOE will be here. I know that Baghdad will be here. I know the superintendents will. And I know there's going to be a whole lot of others that are going to want to be at the table too, right? So,
Yeah.
And voices will be heard.
should we name more of the stakeholders or should we just leave it like that and be done with
I think it's,
other group committees?
I
We're
mean,
looking at this can name other stakeholders.
yeah, if our ed committee wants to name more, they can. If they name more, but I mean, we have left it open, so the working group can ask others to come in and testify and work with them.
I think that's the other point is this needs to go to House Ed.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're gonna
It's
do.
gonna go to ed, it's gonna go Ways and Means, it's gonna go appropriations.
Right.
So this bill's got a long ride to it, so. We don't have to be perfect. We try to be as near perfect as we can. So what's your pleasure?
The way it is.
Okay? So new language,
Have we heard anything from Baghdad? Like, did they have any objections with,
they want to be part of the problem.
yeah, with,
And some of the new language, not the new language we saw today, but some of the new language we saw yesterday came from back there. Eric references. Sent that kind of dish, so we helped clarify.
Can I switch the subject? So I had a couple of questions about the comprehensive regional high school. Nice long sentence. And I'm trying to parse out, what's what there. It starts out, any recommendations issued to the General Assembly. Is that just sort of supposed to be, does that apply to any recommendation that any agency, what does that refer to?
Well, it refers to nothing specific.
Yeah.
Because that was the direction.
Oh, okay.
So any recommendations issued to you all about this concept, it's hard to write what it is
I know,
because no one's defined it yet.
yeah, I hear you. But I mean, I could think, yes, that's the direction, so. And I'm just trying to think of what sort of recommendations we've got embedded in H 955 right now that might,
Right, and
where this might be applicable.
we did, yesterday's language did reference the one,
The one, I see.
and so based on committee discussions yesterday,
Okay,
I pulled that
I get it.
so that there's no issue if H 955 either doesn't pass or it does pass, doesn't contain that one recommendation.
So, so that makes sense. Then my second question had to do with on page 10, the last sort of phrases there after, let's see, first is shall consider the definition of Falcon High School. The general intends to move forward pursuant to subsection A of the section. It's the last series of clauses that I'm trying to understand, or any other model that creates high schools that share. I didn't quite understand the rest of that.
I think the ask of me yesterday was to say, have some language in here.
Yeah.
That says it doesn't just have to be our definition. If you've come up with your own concept of regional high schools, comprehensive high schools, whatever. You can use that as a model too.
Okay,
And so
I see.
I cobbled together this language.
Yep.
And I'm hoping for feedback if you don't like it.
Well, it's not that I don't like it, I was just trying to understand. So I think I get it. It refers back to that sort of any recommendation. And they might have someone might have a different. Let me think. And I understand it.
The working groups and try to come up with
They'll have to,
hopefully a definition that can be recommended to this committee, to House Ed, our Senate counterparts as well, so that we have a unified definition of what a regional, integrated, comprehensive CTE, including high school, looks like.
yeah, so there are really two potential recommendations. One is the school contraction issue, and then the other would be the working group recommendations, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The new language that came from AOE, is everyone good with that?
Or January 15th.
Oh. With proficiencies issue?
Do you want me to put it back up there?
Yeah, be helpful. Thank you, Beth.
So the section 5 report is due January 15th. The guidance on kind of the bridge between guidance now and the rules updates is the September deadline. And this is the AOE language. Recommendations related to flexible pathways.
Yeah, that language is fine.
This is probably not a question for you. But September 15th is after school starts, so it's probably not going to make a whole lot of difference in the next school year. Not that anything we did now could, because we would be causing schools to jump through insane hoops by making something even effective. So, okay, I'm good with that. I just had to think about that out loud.
I do try, anytime there's policy or guidance, I do try to have that due on a July 1, so that there's the summer to implement policies or procedures in time for the school year, but you're in a little bit of a, unless this guidance is ready to go, it's certainly not going to be ready, you know,
Which it could be.
it could be,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So is that just like
But also, a lot of school boards, this is experience, don't meet in the summer, and so they're meeting in August as the school year is starting, so they don't even have time to, July 1 isn't enough time.
I'm just wondering where the date came from, or was it just kind
The
of pulled
date-
out of the air?
The date came, this date traveled in language provided by the agency back when we were working on the language that they originally provided at the beginning of the year.
which was the committee bill.
Right. And it's just been traveling along and I've been highlighting it, telling you all it's a weird date. And it's still here and it's still weird, but that doesn't matter. Everyone's weird, depending on your.
I got half a dozen statutes that we've done over the years, that are just weird.
And so we, I did receive text last or email last night from AOE and which we have the changes and we just talked about the adding, this was not part of their issue. So I think they feel comfortable with September 18th, 26th.
And it keeps going.
If there becomes an issue during the journey of this bill, then it can be changed, but. We good with contents? Are we good to, any more questions of Beth? Okay, so we will wait for the ranking member, he's being the transportation committee at the moment. Comes back down, we can see if we can move this bill out. Jonathan?
I'm going to be talking about 173 to appropriation to 10. Do you think the ranking member will return by then?
If he hasn't, we'll certainly hold it open. We'll wait until everybody's here. We have the rest of the morning.
All right.
That's all we had scheduled for today. And just your efficiencies are amazing.
We've learned well.
So I think we're probably good that you can just send us a clean copy when it's ready.
Just hit send.
Thank you. So be ready to move and we'll move this to education. Education this afternoon on the floor and
They already have me scheduled for next Tuesday to walk through it.
moving on. Great. Okay. Thank you all. The committee will come back on when we have full committee. I don't know exactly what time that'll be, but I'm estimating 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So